Do not file your 2023 taxes yet. This is the announcement that just came out today from the IRS. Just take a look at this, you guys. Just coming out today. IRS tells millions of Americans in 22 states to hold off on filing their taxes. That is right. Here's another one from today. Tax pros still in limbo after the IRS tells millions who received state rebates, aka state stimulus checks, to pause their filings. And they're saying they do not know yet how they want you to file. Please pause if you received any state stimulus checks last year. And take a look. IRS, wait to file your taxes if you received an inflation relief check in 2022. That is right. Now, as you guys know, there's been over 100 different stimulus checks that have gone out across the nation. A lot of people think there was just the federal level checks. That is not the case. There are states, cities, and counties that have sent out tons of money to help out people. And if you want access to that list, because there's still a lot of funds available and new ones coming out, go to www.reliefroadmap.com. I have personally assembled a list of over 100 different ones so you can know what's available for you and your family. And if you have received any of those checks now, the IRS has announced, please pause. They mentioned this last week and now again today, just coming out. They're saying they still need you to pause because they are not sure how they're going to be dealing with this going forward. Now, I'm going to give you all the details. And again, if you have not filed your taxes yet in 2023 for last year, 2022, do not do it if you have gotten state stimulus checks. We are going to be awaiting information. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the latest details. I'm going to get you caught up on this. And before we dive in, do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, don't forget, smash the like button. Just takes a second. Helps out the channel a ton. Thank you so much. Hit subscribe to stay up to date and also share this out. Get the word out so that way people do not file, because then you might be in a little bit of a more mess if you file incorrectly. So please share this video out as well. But with that being said, you guys, let's dive into the details and let you know what the IRS has just announced about please do not file yet your 2023 taxes. All right, so link in the description below to this article that just came out about 3 hours ago from the time of this recording. As you guys know, I cite all the sources, put them on the screen, and read right from them so you can see it for yourself that it is the latest. And it says the IRS tells millions of Americans in 22 states to hold off on filing their taxes. And yes, I'm going to be sharing with you the list of all the states, and we're going to cover all the details that the IRS just released so you can know where things currently stand. Now, the article says that the IRS is asking millions of taxpayers in 22 states, including California, Colorado, Florida, who received tax rebates last year, to hold off on filing their taxes. The reason? The agency said it is seeking to clarify whether those tax rebates and special refunds are going to be considered taxable income. We expect to provide additional clarity for as many states and taxpayers as possible next week, the IRS said on February 3rd. But now this week, as of February 10th, the IRS just said that they have not yet provided clarification. They don't know yet how we're going to be moving forward with this. About 16 million California residents received the middle-class tax refund check of $350 per eligible taxpayer last year, part of the relief package designed by the state to help residents cope with soaring inflation at a time when the state had a budget surplus. Now, at least 22 states authorized tax rebates last year as their coffers were buoyed by strong economic growth and federal pandemic aid, according to the Tax Foundation. Now, the following states sent rebate checks to at least some of their taxpayers last year, the Tax Foundation said, and that included Alaska, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Virginia. And as I mentioned, I've got a list of over 100 different ones, and I think some of the ones that are on my list are not on this list either. So please keep in mind, if you received any form, regardless of if it's state, city, or county, to be on pause for your tax filings. Now, those one-time windfalls are now throwing a wrench into tax season for millions of Americans, many of whom count on getting timely tax refunds to pay down debt, make a purchase, or get on top of bills. Last year, the average tax refund for the 2021 tax year was almost $3,200, a 14% jump from the prior year, according to the IRS data, an amount that's bigger than a typical worker's paycheck. Now, this uncertainty is unfair to taxpayers, wrote Jared Walzak, vice president of the State Project at the Tax Foundation, a tax-focused think tank, in a blog post. Tax experts have long known that the taxability of the state rebate payments would be an issue, but the IRS remained silent until February 3rd, at which point it basically said, we'll get back to you soon. So they're saying that they should have addressed this a long time ago. Now, listen to this. File and amend or file and get penalized. Taxpayers in these states who have already filed returns and who report their rebates as taxable may need to file amended returns to exclude the money if the IRS decides that they aren't taxable, according to the National Taxpayer Advocates, the watchdog arm of the IRS. Conversely, taxpayers who already filed their returns and excluded the payments could be subject to potential penalties, tax, and interest if the IRS decides that the rebates are in fact taxable. Now, the IRS missed the boat by failing to provide timely guidance on this issue, wrote National Taxpayer Advocate Erin Collins in a Thursday blog post. She added, giving taxpayers a choice between waiting to file their returns and receive their refunds or filing returns now that the IRS may later determine to be inaccurate is not acceptable. Adding to the confusion for taxpayers is that the federal government's tax rebates sent in the form of 3 stimulus checks during the pandemic were not considered taxable income by the IRS. So yes, as you guys know, the federal level stimulus checks, the $1,200, $600, and then the $1,400 stimulus checks that went out, those are not considered taxable. It's a rebate, it's a refund, economic impact payment. You don't pay taxes on it. But state, city, and county checks, that could be a different issue here. Now, some taxpayers took to social media to express their frustrations at the IRS's guidance that they should delay filing their tax returns. The agency started accepting returns for this year's tax season on January 23rd. So I tried to sit down this morning to do a fun game of do your taxes, but turns out the IRS hasn't decided yet if California's middle-class tax relief payments are taxable or not, one taxpayer wrote in Twitter. Now, what do you think about this? Is this income or not? Now, I think the vast majority of people would probably think no, because the federal stimulus checks that went out were not considered income. It was not going to be taxed, but they're saying it might be a different story for these different state tax payments, and it might be different for some states than others. So this is going to vary across the board, and as we get updates on this, I'll let you know. But the article says that the IRS issued the statement after Representative Kevin Kiley, a Republican from California, wrote to the tax agency to say that his office has been contacted by numerous constituents asking for help on this issue. Many of the 16 million residents of California who receive the refund are unable to file their 2022 tax returns because they do not have clear guidance as to whether to include this payment as taxable income, he wrote on February 2nd in a letter. Adding to the confusion is that some states seem to be indicating that the rebates count as taxable income. As I mentioned, some states, they might say, yes, you have to pay taxes on that stimulus check that we sent you, according to Collins, the National Taxpayer Advocate. For instance, California's Franchise Tax Board said that it is sending tax forms to all recipients of the rebate, noting that the payment may be considered federal income. Yet, at the same time, many tax preparers have concluded that some state payments are not taxable and have programmed their software so that these payments are not reported, Collins added. Now, on Friday today, listen to this. Here's the latest. The IRS advised the best course of action is to wait for additional clarification on state payments rather than calling the IRS. It added, we also do not recommend amending a previously filed 2022 return. So just to clarify, if you have already filed, do not file an amendment yet. You need to wait for further clarification. Amended returns have been caught up in the IRS's backlog, leading to processing delays. So again, if you have already filed, do not file an amendment yet. Wait to see what they say. And again, one more time, the list that they provided of states that in 2022 sent out state stimulus checks, and if you're in these states and you are eligible and did not receive them, you're going to want to look them up. It included Alaska, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Virginia. And again, those are just states. There's also cities and counties that provided tons of checks. And I know for the state of California alone, I've got a list of almost 30 different checks for states, cities, and counties, and I've got a ton of them. Now, there are some states where I don't have anything. Not on this list also is Texas, where there were 3 city checks last year as well. So if you want that list, you can check it out at www.reliefroadmap.com. It's the comprehensive list that I've assembled, and I'm going to be adding more to them as well, as more are going to be on the way soon here as well. And also, you should have already gotten those $1,232 federal level stimulus checks that were announced at the beginning of the year in 2023. There were 4 groups of people that should have gotten them, and I also cover if you did not get them and you were eligible and you should have got it, what you need to do. I cover it all in this video right here. So check it out next. If you missed it, you should have gotten it. And if you didn't, you need to act fast. So check out that video next. And you guys, I'll keep you up to date as more information rolls out from the IRS on what to do with taxes. But with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and take care. God bless. This is Steve.